governo Talibã lançou a maior repressão já feita contra o vício em drogas no Afeganistão. Chegamos a Sarai Shamali, um dos muitos bairros de Kabul afetados pela crise das drogas.
What if your darkest moment, your most vulnerable, broken state, was treated not with care, but with punishment? What if healing wasn't a path, but a sentence? Deep inside Kabul, there's a place that claims to be a center of recovery. But what happens inside looks more like a war on pain itself. The Taliban calls it reform. They say it's how you purify a body corrupted by drugs. But what you're about to see, what you're about to feel, might tell a different story. This is not just a prison. It's a brutal experiment in forced rehabilitation. Men are taken from the streets, sick, shaking, starving for help, and thrown behind iron doors where medicine doesn't exist. Instead, there is prayer, silence, and suffering. No doctors, no choices, no mercy. In this system, withdrawal is not treated, it is endured. And those who fail to endure are punished again, spiritually, physically, mentally. This is not about curing addiction. This is about redefining it as sin, about using punishment as a tool of purity. You ever wonder what happens when ideology replaces medicine? When faith becomes the only prescription? Stay with me. Because what you're about to discover may challenge everything you thought you knew about justice, recovery, and what a society is willing to sacrifice in the name of control. And behind every locked door in this place, there's a story that was never meant to be told. And as you follow these narrow corridors lined with trembling bodies, some barely able to stand, others whispering prayers between clenched teeth, you begin to feel it too. This place doesn't wait for you to understand. It just demands that you survive. Some of the men here haven't eaten in days. Others scream in silence, afraid to speak too loudly. There's no counselor, no comfort, no end date, just time, and pain, and discipline disguised as redemption. If any part of this is striking a nerve, if it made you stop and wonder what healing really means in a place like this, say something. Your voice matters more than you think. Leave a comment below and tell me what this makes you feel. Does this look like recovery or something much darker? And if this story moved you, even for a second, hit the like button. Not just for the algorithm, but because every click pushes this truth into places that usually prefer silence. Subscribe if you want to go deeper into stories like this, where justice isn't just a word, but a test of how far systems will go to control the broken. Because in this channel, we don't look away. We go where others don't. And the next step in this story? It only gets more unsettling. They don't knock. They don't ask. When the Taliban raids the streets of Kabul, it's not crime they're chasing. It's addiction. Their boots echo through alleyways before dawn, cutting through slums, tunnels, sewage drains. Eyes scan for the collapsed, the nodding, the ones too deep into withdrawal to even resist. These aren't arrests, they're collections. You see them? Thin men, barely clothed, curled in corners with rusted needles still trembling in their skin. Some tried to hide behind broken bricks or makeshift tents. Others simply lay there, eyes wide open, waiting. Because in this system, there's no judge, no trial, no record. The only evidence is your body. Too slow, too sick, too far gone to escape. And once you're spotted, it's over. You're lifted, sometimes by force, sometimes by arms that barely remember how to fight back. They're shoved into the backs of dusty trucks, shoulder to shoulder, head to floor. No one speaks, only the clank of metal doors closing, the smell of sweat and blood, and the growing silence as the city pretends not to see. This is what they call detox. A Taliban detox raid isn't about medicine. It's about ritual. Shame first, then correction. Kabul becomes a chessboard, with addicts as pawns moved into a predetermined fate. The prison doesn't wait for a crime to be committed, only for a weakness to be shown. Drug sweep operations in Afghanistan don't distinguish between user and victim. To the Taliban, addiction is failure, and failure demands a cure, even if that cure feels like war. But what happens once those trucks disappear past the gates? What kind of healing begins when pain is the only prescription? That's when the real punishment begins. If you've made it to this point, drop the word ritual in the comments, because here, recovery isn't a process. It's a ceremony built on control. The trucks halt without warning. Metal doors swing open, and the bodies inside, curled, silent, drenched in fear, are pulled out into the cold morning air. No introductions, no explanation, just orders. First, the hair, razors buzzing through months of grime and identity, stripping them to the skin. Then, the fire, their clothes tossed into barrels and burned, as if incinerating the past could erase the addiction itself. Each man is handed a new uniform, identical, rigid, and impersonal. Not even the fabric breathes. Inside, the silence sharpens. The walls echo with nothing but the shuffle of bare feet on concrete. Names vanish. In here, they are not sons, brothers, friends. They're only what they used. Heroin, meth, opium. That becomes the call. You, meth! You, heroin! As if their worth ended the moment the substance entered their bloodstream. The prison doesn't seek to rehabilitate the man. It seeks to break the addict. Their new home is a mat on a cold floor, no pillow, no blanket, just the sound of other men trying not to cry. The lights never truly go out, and neither do the cravings. But no medicine arrives, no doctor enters. The first 24 hours are not about support. They are a test of pain, of silence, of submission. Arms twitch, stomachs twist, eyes roll back as withdrawal takes hold like a fever with claws. One man vomits, another screams in his sleep. A third just rocks back and forth, whispering verses from a prayer he barely remembers. But prayer is not optional. 5 times a day, they must rise, no matter how violently their bodies shake, and kneel facing Mecca. It's not comfort. It's not hope, it's control. Every second is regimented, every gesture observed. The Taliban's logic is simple. Discipline cures sin. The prison is not a treatment center. It's a machine grinding down the human shape until only obedience remains. And this is only the beginning. Because once the body breaks, the next step is to realign the soul, by any means necessary. If you're still with me, types "identity erased" in the comments. Because here, healing begins with disappearance. There are no white coats, no charts, no questions like, "How are you feeling today?" Because feelings are not treated here, only sin. The detox ward isn't a medical space. It's a corridor of silence, sweat, and spiritual force. The Taliban doesn't see addiction as a mental health issue. To them, it's moral collapse. And the answer isn't therapy, it's fear. Men shiver violently on thin mats, their limbs betraying them as the body screams for what it once knew. But no one comes with sedatives. No hands reach out with compassion. Instead, guards walk the rows like shepherds of suffering, reciting scripture over bodies twisted in pain. There is no conversation, just orders. And silence that chokes. Here, treatment means forced prayer at dawn, no matter how weak your legs are. It means fasting until your vision blurs. And obedience so blind, it erases any trace of rebellion. Even if that rebellion is just a cry for help. Those who lose control, who hallucinate or collapse, are removed from the group and placed in small isolation cells, dark and cold. They are told this is for their own good, that God sees everything, that discipline is mercy. But what kind of mercy punishes pain? What kind of healing requires invisibility? The men begin to whisper that only two things are allowed in this place: pain and God. And sometimes they're not sure which is which. If you're still watching, leave faith or fear in the comments. Because in here, the line between the two is razor thin. They reappear like ghosts reprogrammed, clean-shaven, silent, their eyes no longer wild but empty. Draped in modest clothes, they recite verses with precision, like actors rehearsed for a scene they didn't choose. The Taliban's cameras are waiting, and when they press record, what the world sees is peace, discipline, transformation. They call them success stories. Men who were once addicts now stand before the lens as proof that punishment saves. But that's the trick, isn't it? Behind every staged redemption is a silence too heavy to translate. These videos are edited meticulously. No tremors, no screams, no moments of collapse, just carefully curated faith. What the world doesn't see are the nights these same men spent curled on the concrete, whispering to hallucinations, or the way their hands still shake when no one's looking, or how their smiles vanish as soon as the camera clicks off. The prison has become a stage. The inmates, its unwilling cast, their pain is not just endured, it's broadcasted, shaped, exported. And the message is clear. The system works. The punishment is holy. The outcome, divine. But what if the miracle was just a result of fear? What if obedience isn't healing, but surrender? And what if the people watching these clips, believing in the transformation, are just as controlled as the men on screen? If this part left a mark on you, comment, "Not everything that looks healed is whole." Let's see who's really watching with open eyes. Some inmates stop pretending. Their rehearsed lines fall apart. The verses they once chanted with stoic calm now escape as murmurs between gritted teeth. They ask for help, not salvation, not redemption, just medicine, relief. A moment of stillness inside a storm they never chose. But in this system, asking for help is not seen as a step toward healing. It's read as defiance, and defiance demands discipline. They bang on cell doors not because they want out, but because their own bodies are turning against them. The addiction doesn't leave just because faith was introduced. It hides, it waits, and when it resurfaces, it's met with punishment, not care. The Taliban's response is not to question the method, but to tighten the grip. If the pain hasn't worked yet, they reason. It's because there hasn't been enough of it. Some men start to tremble not from withdrawal, but from fear. They begin to hallucinate, not because of the substances they left behind, but because of the psychological vacuum they now inhabit. There are no doctors here, no diagnostics, no discussion about trauma or mental health, just a quiet expectation that faith, force, and obedience will burn out the sickness. But how do you cure what you don't believe exists? How do you treat suffering you refuse to name? If you felt the weight of this contradiction, write in the comments, "Punishment is not a prescription." Let's see who's really questioning the silence. They leave with shaved heads, hollow eyes, and veins no longer poisoned, but souls rearranged into something quieter, something fractured. The Taliban calls it success, clean, redeemed, transformed. But what walks out of that prison is not a man reborn. It's a silhouette that survived abstinence, not healing. Most ex-inmates are released into the same streets that once swallowed them whole. No home, no family waiting, no social reintegration plan. Just a plastic bag of flatbread, a thin shirt, and the weight of a silence that now lives inside them. Some walk aimlessly, unable to recognize themselves. Others return to the very ruins from where they were taken, because it's the only place that still knows their name. This isn't recovery. It's a loop with new vocabulary. They're clean, yes, but also emotionally dismembered. They no longer cry out during withdrawal because they've learned that silence is safer. They no longer reach for the needle. But not because the urge is gone. It's because the memory of punishment lingers heavier than the craving ever did. And yet, for the Taliban, the metric of success is simple. The body stopped shaking. The prayer mat was used. The footage looks good. No one asks about the suicide rates. No one counts how many relapse within a week. No one cares that these men now live in a strange limbo, where they're not addicted, but also not alive. Some disappear. Others reoffend just to return to the prison. Not because they want more pain, but because at least there, they had food, a floor, a name, even if it was just addict. Outside, they are no one. And in a system built on shame, invisibility is the final punishment. If that image stayed with you, write in the comments. Healing should not look like this. Let's give voice to what's been ignored. And maybe that's the question no government, regime, or ideology truly wants to answer. When healing becomes submission, when silence is called virtue, and when pain is renamed purification, what we're witnessing isn't recovery, it's control. It's the redesign of the human spirit through the lens of punishment. If you've made it this far, it's probably because something here touched you. Maybe not because of the brutality itself, but because of what it reveals underneath. If that's the case, write in the comments, healing should not hurt like this. That way, I'll know you stayed until the end, and that you didn't let this story pass through you in silence. If this video helped you see things from a new angle, leave a like. It tells YouTube this kind of content matters, and more importantly, it shows there are still people who care about what happens when the cameras are off. And if you want to keep exploring this journey with me, understanding how punishment is being used as a tool of power in other corners of the world, there's a video right here that will change the way you see everything. Click it, and stay with me over there.